All right, in this episode, we talk about pitching tips for sidearmers
and if it works for your body type.
All right, Brent Porcio, Kevin Schultz, Stephen Godini here at the @TopVelocity hashtag Pitch and Tips show, where you go to Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, and @TopVelocity hashtag Pitch and Tips. We ask, or you ask the question, anything on pitching, anything we do here at Top Velocity, and we answer on the show. We've got a lot of guys here to help answer it. If you don't like what I have to say, you can hear what Kevin has to say. You can hear what Stephen has to say. If you don't like what any of us have to say, then go to Driveline, right?
Or someone else.
I'm gonna totally beat that. Or maybe I'll just leave it in there.
I don't know.
Well, kudos to Driveline, you can take them. All right, a question for the day. Michael Pietrzewski asks, any pitching tips for sidearmers? All right, sidearmers. Okay, you know what, I'm gonna let Kevin, we talked about this, he had a really good analogy to help you guys understand how sidearm pitching really needs to be placed into the realm of power pitching.
All right, so when I think about a sidearm pitcher, I just think about most pitchers have an established arm slot. Like mine is like a very low 3/4. So, but I also throw over the top because I use contralateral tilt. So I'm here, tilt my shoulders, my arm slot rises. Now I'm over the top a little bit. But if you look, I'm still low 3/4. So if I take my shoulders down, oh look, now I'm a sidearmer, okay? So tips for sidearmers, the same as guys that are over the top. Power is going to lead to velocity. So if you could separate more as a sidearmer, you're going to be able to throw harder. So what do we do here? We teach you how to use your back leg to separate. So more power, more separation. So even sidearm pitchers are going to be able to benefit just the same way a guy that's over the top would be. One thing I'd like to say about sidearmers, and when you bend over and you hinge at the waist, getting that hip, that back hip to pop through and separate is going to be tougher, okay? So less separation, less velo. Good reason why sidearm guys throw a little slower than guys that are over the top, okay? So if I'm leaning back, it's going to be able to get my hip to go a lot easier, and I'm going to separate a lot easier. So contralateral tilt also helps your separation, which will lead more velocity. Similar why if you switch to sidearm, your velocity goes down. Not because all of a sudden your arm is throwing slower, but because you're now separating less.
Yeah, that's what I was going to say. So he stole my last point. Very good, though. Typically right. We truly believe
taught
that.
Me that, so I just stole it from him.
He did. So we really truly believe that you typically find sidearm pitchers throwing slower than over-the-top pitchers because of the challenges of hip-to-shoulder separation. Because when you're in an ipsilateral position or leaning inward, it's harder to get the hip through and it's harder to keep the shoulders back because you're fighting more gravity and you're kind of twisting in a harder position.
Oh, so. And you have more trouble turning on your glute because now you're in like an overextended position in the back, which makes it harder to fire the glute because now your adductor is firing instead. So when you can't fire your glute, you can't finish that hip push and you can't get the hip to pop through too. So there's a bunch of problems with it.
Right, so it does. It's a challenging slot to really optimize your potential ball speed. So it's not saying, I think, and that's the decision you're making too. You're basically saying, I'll be willing to lose a little speed for a little movement. Because I played with a guy in indie ball who wound up going into affiliated ball from coming to us at a mid 90s or a low 90s guy, and then he didn't have many pitches to go with, and then wanted to be a sidearm guy and lost a couple miles an hour but gained a lot of movement. So it worked that way, but he knew he was losing a little bit to gain a little bit here. So that's the decision you make. But here's the thing I'm going to call out, and we'll use a great example of Jason, right? Is if you're a really stocky guy and you're throwing sidearm, big mistake, right? For example, with Jason. The reason big mistake is because it's already hard enough to get separation. It's already hard enough to get trunk tilts, forward tilts. That's another thing you lose at a sidearm slide. You're not going to really be pushing your trunk far out there. So you're going to lose the ability to move more trunk energy forward, which is going to hurt your ball speed. So if you're really a stocky guy, you're already having a hard time getting hip to shoulder separation, a hard time getting a lot of forward tilts. So you go into a sidearm slot, I mean, you could lose, like, for example, Jason came in at what,
78.
Jason came in at 78, sidearm slot. I looked at Jason right when he walked in the camp. I said, do you want to be a sidearm guy? He goes, no, not really. I say, okay, well, you're not going to be. I said, you're going to go over the top, or you're going to go basically in a contralateral 10-degree plus tilt position. And he said, fine. So we put him over there. I got to give it to Jason. He worked incredibly hard, and he really was passionate about what he wanted to do, and he worked hard here. And then through the program, he went to 78 to what? 86. And you know what? Of course, the program helped him a lot. But a lot of that too was just teach him in that better arm slot, and there was 8 miles an hour right there. And so if you make that decision, make sure you're a tall, lanky guy. And if you do, I suggest you come into the 3X programs and get the program, start the program. But we've got a great 3X coach out there who's a sidearm guy, and John Heisinger. And I would highly recommend you reach out to him. He's out in Arizona, the coolest guy in the world. Has had an amazing minor league career as a sidearm guy, and has really embraced the 3X approach and how it works for him. So he would be excellent in teaching you, if that's you're really gung-ho, to stick in that arm slot and then also get as much ball speed out of it as you can. I would say reach out to him, and you can do that at TopVelocity.net. Look, or just search on Google Zinger Top Velocity 3X coach, and you're going to find him and reach out to him. Anything you'd like to add to the sidearm?
I haven't seen any sidearmers come in here yet since I've been here, so the rookie's in the dark on this one.
Yeah, so basically, if you come in as a sidearm to 3X camp, we are going to sit down with you and say, do you really want to be sidearm? And if you're like Jason, you're a short or stockier guy, we're probably going to tell you there's so much more ball speed on the other side of your trunk than where you are right now, and we're going to teach you a different trunk position, because that's really mainly what it is. Or if you're a tall guy and lanky guy and you got it and you're like, you know what, I'm willing to not fully optimize, to keep some movement. I like the slot, it's unique, it's different, I get more opportunities. Yeah, we'll help you the best we can. The program has a ton, just as much to offer you. You just lose some of the trunk dynamics because of your trunk positions. And then, like I said, you got a great 3X coach out there who's done really well with it, John Heisinger, or Zinger, and reach out to him and he'll help you through it. So if you haven't already, go to Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, at Top Velocity, #pitching tips. Ask your question to us, anything on pitching, anything we do here at Top Velocity, and we're going to answer it on the show. And if you haven't already as well, go to TopVelocity.net, check out all of our programs.
Boys, yeah. Holla, we them boys. Holla, we them boys.